What would you do for a Klondike bar?
I would drive down to the store and go to the aisle where they have ice creams and find in the Klondike bar like a box. They come in like boxes. And I'd get one of those and I'd take it to the register. I'd probably do a self-check because I have just the one item and I'm just going to speed things up. But if there's an empty line, I'd go into one of those. And then I would render payment, probably via debit, credit card.
I don't think you understand the point of the commercial.
No?
Welcome back, everybody, to the podcast. I'm Cyrus.
And I'm Zach.
And we are the artisans of arts and crafts, the bachelors of badassery, the ministers of merriment.
Ooh, I like that one.
I don't know, I thought I'd have some fun with that. We're back again for another episode of the FoundryCast. Yep. We have a couple different topics this week, one of which that is near and dear to our hearts, and as a matter of fact, we already somewhat recorded a podcast on this, but I think we went a little too ham.
Yeah, it took a while. We talked for a long time, but we realized that it's such a long discussion. It's probably not going to be that enjoyable to listen to.
Right.
So we figured we'd touch on it again this week and try and trim it down just a little bit and kind of collate and coalesce and focus our thoughts a little bit more.
And it's something that has been sort of growing in your brain for a while, and I've always had strong feelings about it. And the impetus was after DragonCon, there was a lot of news about a couple of people who weren't attending the convention, but who were wearing costumes nearby at a place of business just down the street, or at least a public area down the street, wearing Twin Towers costumes.
Right.
And I've heard some other reports where they said, no, it wasn't Twin Towers costumes, but indeed it was.
Pretty clearly making light of the September 11th attacks, we got back from the con and saw the news story about it afterwards, and it got me thinking about how it made me upset, and it was personally offensive, not just for what it was, because obviously that's an offensive thing to do. To make light of something like that, especially in a public space. But it was offensive to me in terms of it felt like a corruption of DragonCon and what makes it so good to me that it's this open, welcoming, honest environment, and to introduce that kind of negativity to it and that kind of attitude was really disappointing. And it got me thinking, and we like I said, we talked about this previously about kind of nerd culture, geek culture in general, and negativity that exists in it, and how we feel about it, what we want to do to combat it, and the ultimate conclusion. Well, it's not the ultimate conclusion, but a conclusion that I reached was that I made the decision. Going forward, when we spend time with our friends, many times in the past we've played a game, and I'm sure many listeners out there, many geeks and nerds have played it as well, called Cards Against Humanity.
Sure, yeah.
And we played it a lot, and I made the decision that I decided I'm not going to play that game ever again.
Mm-hmm. And that's a personal choice for you.
Yeah.
And I think negativity can be something that happens by accident. You can inadvertently be hypercritical of something. You can just go a little too far. And I think a lot of Cards Against Humanity, and this isn't to rail on the game, because the concept is pretty sound. It's the same as apples to apples.
Yeah, it's derivative of apples to apples.
It just is a little more of that shock therapy. And we've gotten to a point where we're almost beyond the culture of shock. Because there were times where all the radio DJs in the morning would say crazy things just to get a rise out of people. Prank videos are on the incline on YouTube from the younger audience, but as far as on television, they've all but disappeared.
Yeah.
Prank shock videos are gone. It's inspired to make people uncomfortable, and there are times that we do need to be rattled, but when you're relishing that and when you're enjoying having terrible stuff to say, I think that negativity can be, and this is a word that you used pretty deftly, speaking about it before, very toxic.
Yeah. It's poisonous. You talk about making fun of something or, a prank video or something like that. And I don't want to sit here and say that there are certain off-limit topics, because I think in the end, especially in a free society, there is no topic that should be off-limits.
Sure.
You're allowed to discuss, you should be able to discuss whatever you want, and I think humor is a great way of dealing with negative things, with tragic things, and so, again, I don't think there's anything that you shouldn't be able to make fun of. But that being said, sitting around a card table, playing this game for the 10th time, and making a joke about the Holocaust or rape or really awful subjects like this, is that the appropriate time to be making jokes about it?
Right.
I don't think that it is.
Well, we've played it before, and we've laughed and had a good time, and part of it is, when you're mean-spirited, who are you being mean-spirited towards? Are you making fun of yourself? Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that I do. I like to rib myself, joke about myself, because I know I can make fun of myself better than anyone else can.
Yeah, my sense of humor is also very self-deprecating.
Yeah, very self-deprecating. And I don't like when people make fun of me unless I'm in on the joke. Mm-hmm. And then let me be the band leader, let me call attention to my foibles and my flaws. That's what I think is funny, instead of taking it down on somebody else. Now, that game isn't really necessarily insulting to any of the players.
It can
However, we've seen instances where it may have caused an argument between some players. Yeah. And I freely admit we had a situation where I played a series of cards that were inadvertently hurtful to you and your situation in life at that time. And, of course, you admitted it was the best card combination, and you gave me the point, but I didn't realize exactly what I was saying.
Sure.
And, to this day, it's fine because we've talked about it, but I feel bad for having done that.
Yeah.
And that's not what the game is all about. It's about making those terrible jokes, laughing at it, but I think it inspires a meanness in people.
Yeah, I think, and it's a phrase I use. I don't know if it's the best phrase to use for it, but normalizing negativity. Mm-hmm. The argument for playing the game is, we're all friends. We all know that we don't mean these mad things.
It's a circle of trust.
We're in a closed room. Nobody's watching. We can joke about these kinds of things, and it's okay because we all understand. And yes, while that is true to a certain extent, I think even in that situation, if you and I are saying, even just between us, it's okay to make fun of a taboo subject. It's okay to make fun of tragedy. Then, in some small way, we're acknowledging that it's always okay in any situation to do that. And I know that's taking something to an extreme, but I think it's real. Like I said, this is something that I see in nerd culture that led to these folks that we were talking about in their Twin Towers costume. Is on the internet, you push the boundary, just a little bit further, just a little bit further, just a little bit further. It's all in good fun. Just push it a little bit further, and then all of a sudden, somebody thinks it's appropriate to wear a Twin Towers costume to a convention. And that's how we didn't. This wasn't a leap that was made. We got there because of what we because of things like Cards Against Humanity that make it just a little bit more normal and a little bit more okay. And each time it's a little bit. We get a little bit closer. And
I think part of it is just everyone feeling so entitled that I can say what I want when I want. I'm making a statement. And I don't think these people were necessarily making a political statement, but they believe that I have free speech to say whatever I want. Yeah. And I think they're also they're sacrificing decency by thinking that if I make a joke about it, it's just a joke and it's okay. It's not a big deal. Yeah. They don't realize how many people are hurt by this. It has a lot to do with anonymity that you find online. You can post comments, and as long as you go and delete your email, people may not be able to trace you, or at least it's difficult to do that, to follow through with you, and for there to be any repercussions if you say terribly hurtful things. And it just becomes acceptable that you post something online and let's say you get 1,000 people watch your video. That's awesome. But you get 50 people who say, you're stupid, you're ugly, go and kill yourself. And I've heard of this happening to YouTubers.
Yeah.
And they're just being terrible people because they know there's no repercussion.
Get away with it. Yeah.
And they might, in general, be good people. They just know I can get away with being hurtful to someone else they should expect it because they're online. And I'm making these terrible costumes. You should expect it because it's been 15 years. It's okay. We can joke about it now.
Well, I think it also goes back to, you're talking about like shock jocks and that kind of thing. The idea, there's like in internet culture, there's this idea that in order to be funny, you have to be shocking, or
right.
This is going to piss people off, therefore it's funny. And it goes back to me saying like, well, I think there is a time and place to joke about anything. Some of my favorite comedians and some of my favorite comedy bits are dealing with really, really, really serious subjects. But those are professional comedians who have spent God only knows how many hours crafting that joke and their perspective and what they're going to say. They have important things to say about it, using humor to say about this topic. Somebody like this who, let's put on a Twin Towers costume, it's going to shock everybody and piss them off. Won't that be hilarious? They're not saying anything. They're just doing it to make people upset. And that's the difference. And that's the problem here.
Negativity seems to just grow by not by accident, but that person wasn't trying to make a political statement. What were they trying to do? Just get a rise out of somebody.
They were just trying to get a rise out of somebody, and they think that's funny.
And where is that coming from? Is it something inside of themselves where they're just so upset, they're miserable, they want to bring other people into their miserable scope? Yeah. It's sort of like the saying is, misery loves company. You want to add people into your world of just being spiteful and critical, and I don't think that's the case with a lot of people. I think they just don't realize how far they went, or I thought that would be a joke. I didn't realize it hurt people. How many times Halloween is coming right around the corner? People wear terrible costumes, and some of these people may not be terrible people. They thought it would just be okay to wear an Osama bin Laden costume.
Yeah. You see, actually, I just saw an article the other day about, I think it was a group of, I don't know if they were in a sorority, but it was a group of girls in a college, I think in North Dakota or something. And as a costume for something, they wore blackface and had a little sign that said Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, I did see that, yes.
And it's a situation where they're not making a political statement. They're not commenting on the situation. They're just doing that because wouldn't this be funny for us to be like? So it's that kind of like lack of self-awareness, lack of understanding of a situation. Just wouldn't it be funny if?
And I'm sure we all have been guilty of saying something by accident, using a word. We've talked before about words like gay or retarded.
Yeah.
And the way that it might have been used once in our childhood where we thought that was okay.
Yeah,
and you grow up to realize it's not okay.
No, it's not okay. Yeah, absolutely.
I told you before, and I think it's a funny story, that in college on the radio, my co-DJ and I were just doing a normal evening show, and I would do little news blasts, and she said, well, that's retarded.
Yeah.
And I went to a commercial break really quickly. I said, you can't say that. That's offensive. And she didn't really understand, but she said, okay, we'll move on. And the very next talking break, she said something was really gay. Yeah. And I jumped to a commercial. I said, you cannot talk that way. And she had no idea. She thought it was still okay to say it. That was... I was like, well, what if I said queer? I said, well, if you're using the right term, it might be okay, but odds are it's going to be interpreted the other way. Yeah. So maybe you should say that is silly, or that is obtuse, or that is bizarre. There are better words than what you mean. I think
that's a good point, and we never, I'm not trying to advocate, censorship in a way, or saying
it's not about political correctness.
Shouldn't be allowed. Yeah, I'm not saying we need to be PC, because I'm not a PC. I mean, I say bad things all the time. I think it's an individual perspective that each one of us has to take. We have to commit to ourselves that we're going to not self-censor, not say, I'm not allowed to say anything to offend anybody ever, but to understand what you say and what you do and how it has long-term repercussions for your loved ones, for your hobby, for the people around you. We always have to understand there's always a better choice, and sometimes we don't always make the best choice, but you have to it's the same thing as like setting healthy life habits, like eating right and exercising. You have to make the conscious decision to to live a good life that way. Mm-hmm. So I think in the same way, you have to make a conscious decision that I'm not going to be negative in a situation. I'm not going to make a negative joke, a joke at someone else's expense, even if it's all in good fun, because that in some way is negatively impacting me and people around me, like I said, my fandom, my hobby. Instead, I can find a better joke to make that's going to be funnier in the long run and is going to help people build people up and not tear people down.
Well, what happened recently to a huge YouTuber is a lot of his history caught up with him. He had said terrible things. He did a lot of game streaming where he insulted people. He told them to die. He made fun of something about their lives and just awful, awful stuff. And because of that, he had thousands of people flee from his site. He basically had to leave and give the business over to other people so it would keep afloat. So the people working underneath him would keep their jobs. And I think you leave a legacy whether you mean to or not. I recently read one of those anecdotes on Facebook that, someone made up and just to be inspiring. But I thought it was kind of interesting about a little boy who was being mean and losing his temper, and his dad made him go into the yard and hammer a nail into the fence every time he lost his temper. And after a while, he got so tired of hammering all these hundreds of nails in, he thought it'd be easier just to keep calm. Yeah. And then his dad said, okay, every day you keep calm, we're going to pull a nail out of the fence. And then after weeks and weeks and weeks, finally the son was so proud. He said, Dad, look, we got all the nails out of the fence. Isn't that great? And his dad hugged him and said, yeah, that's wonderful. Well, let's look at the fence. There's still hundreds of holes in the wood. You still leave that behind as an impression. And so if you're hanging out with your friends and all you do is gather together to play Cards Against Humanity, that slowly builds maybe a reputation where you go, that person's maybe not the kindest or the nicest. And, I mean, we've played that game, and I'm not saying you shouldn't.
I love it. I think fairly good at it, and I have a dark sense of humor, and it speaks directly to me.
It's pushed me to say things that I wouldn't normally ever say, not because I want to win. And I do have a dark sense of humor, but I wouldn't necessarily think to make a Holocaust joke that way. But I know this might win me, so I'm going to play that card.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I have a dark sense of humor that would lead me to make negative jokes, and I'm trying my best to remember that that's not necessarily a good thing. Like, it's not okay to just accept, I just have a dark sense of humor, and that's okay. It's okay to have aspects about you, but at the same time, you need to recognize what you do, and you need to do better sometimes.
You need to be able to laugh and not take everything so seriously.
Absolutely, yeah.
And sometimes a game like this can allow you to laugh at something, because when you laugh at it, you make it smaller. And you make
take
it...
take
the power out of
Absolutely.
it. But sometimes... And we just keep using the Holocaust because some of the other cards are just so dirty.
It's a good example that is awful, but also isn't.
But maybe we don't want to take the power out of the Holocaust.
Well, I would say, at this point, do you need to take the Mickey out of the Nazis? No. I don't think anybody. Don't get me wrong. It's funny to make fun of Hitler because he's again belittles somebody a monster, but at the same time. What's said has been said. Do we need to keep going back to that? Well, let's just make some funny puns instead and move on.
And so it sounds as if we're talking about negativity, but I think in reality we're talking about positivity.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. We're not talking about, don't be negative all the time. We're saying, let's be positive.
Do your best, maybe, to every now and again, you got to self-evaluate. If you're not self-aware, that's something that everyone should strive for. Yeah. And you can say, you know what, I do like dark comedies. I do like this comedian who says terrible things, and that's okay. You accept that about yourself. But if you're not building something, if you're not supporting something, if you're not being inclusive, then are you ultimately rewarding yourself down the road? I don't know if maybe I'm posing it the right way, but a lot of what we do on the Foundry is about building and crafting and creating.
Building up, yeah, absolutely.
And building things up. And we're going to joke, we're going to make fun of Star Wars, and we're also going to love Star Wars, and it's coming from a place of love and not just a place of spite, because, as I say, a day with a terrible Star Wars movie is better than any day without any Star Wars movie.
Fair enough. Yeah, I guess I would summarize it like this. America's Funniest Home Videos, a dad gets hit in the crotch with a plastic ball bat by his child. It's pretty funny.
It's hilarious.
You running outside right now with a plastic bat, finding people to hit in the crotch, not funny.
Not funny.
And that's the difference, is like, okay, yeah, you can make observational funniness out of certain subjects, but don't go out of your way to do it.
And there is an amount of joy in pain, others' pain. We love the Three Stooges for that simple fact.
Sure.
But when we're in nerd culture, where a lot of this, a lot of these people, a lot of us, were not the cool kid, or it took a long time for us to become the cool kid.
Yeah.
And now that nerd culture has become much more acceptable,
yeah.
I think we need to give back to the community and show that we're not the ones who are flaming and having terrible things to say online. We're actually the ones who are building you up, supporting you, taking care of you, coming up with ideas, sharing our experiences, and telling you it's okay, and inclusive. Join us, and we're not going to tell you to go and kill yourself.
I think intrinsically the nature of our hobbies, of geeky stuff and of internet stuff, gives so many ways to be negative, to be bad, and so it puts extra impetus on us as nerds, like you said, to be inclusive and to be positive.
Your edict, your new plan to stop playing Cards Against Humanity, just as something for you. That's a personal choice.
Decision. Yeah,
that's something that I also agree with. I don't believe I'll be playing that game anymore. It stopped being fun for me a while back, and I was just doing it because my friends were.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking a stand saying, "Oh no, we shouldn't play." It's just no, thank you. And if we're not going to do something else, maybe I go ahead and head home. It's okay. My feelings aren't hurt. I'll just check you guys next time. Mm-hmm. But I also have recently been making sure to be positive whenever I can.
Yeah.
And that's if I see a good video online, give that person a real compliment.
Give them some good feedback.
Hey, I've been watching your videos for a while, and they're getting really good. Yeah. Keep up the great work. Something like that can really make someone's day. You're not blowing smoke. You're being honest, but do your best to compliment people. Compliment is so strong. Yeah. And you never know when that person has had a bad day, and that's the one thing they need to hear to really perk them up and let them know they're appreciated. So I'm going another step in my own life already, and that's to try to put positivity out there whenever I get a chance.
Yeah, agreed. I'm kind of in the same boat, and also trying to avoid negativity. Avoid environments online where people are going to be making negative jokes or comments. Avoid those kinds of things and work more towards positivity. Absolutely. All right, so Cyrus, changing topics here. Did you see our good buddy, personal friend of ours, CM Punk?
Always, good friend of mine. Known him for years. You mean his UFC fight?
His UFC MMA debut did not go well.
Well, that's the thing that happens a lot for crossover stars. If they don't grow up in some sort of ultimate fighting arena, they can go in. They can do pretty well, but they're usually going to get up against someone who is a seasoned fighter, and they're going to lose. Yeah. Now, whether they're going to get whooped up on or not. It's funny, Ric Flair said, "What goes around comes around." I guess that's kind of a diss on CM Punk.
Yeah, I think the response from WWE stars has been interesting, where it seems like they're kind of reveling in it. Which, does that mean that they all really do hate CM Punk, or I don't know.
He is good at getting people to dislike him. Now, because he and I are personal friends.
Sure,
I like him a lot. I get what he's doing.
Yeah.
I believe that he is one of the most intelligent people who are in athletics today.
Yeah.
I think he understands a lot of what's happening in the different businesses. But being a crossover star like that has a lot of issues. It's usually better to cross over from the unscripted to the scripted.
Sure, yeah.
You can see what happened with Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was there at the pinnacle of the Attitude Era when 90s wrestling, 2000s wrestling was at its peak.
Yeah.
Because he took the attitude, he took his persona and brought it into the wrestling ring.
Yeah.
When you go from high athleticism in the WWE or whatever wrestling company you're with, and then go into street fighting.
Yeah.
He was well equipped though. He's not a weak SOB.
He's a good athlete, and I think that's an interesting way to look at it is I don't think anybody's going to stand here and say that wrestlers aren't good athletes, because they are. I mean, some of the guys who get longer, and Hulk Hogan later in his career, I won't say was the spryest person I've ever seen, but it takes a lot of strength and skill to do what they do day in and day out. That doesn't necessarily translate to being good at MMA. I don't know. It's interesting that there is as much crossover in we'll call them combat sports. If you look at, let's say, the NFL and baseball, okay, you're a great running back. That doesn't mean you can go to baseball and be a good hitter. It's very different skills.
Right.
Nobody says you're not a good athlete, but it's different skills. So I think that, I wonder how much CM Punk understood. You're a great athlete.
I think he understood very well. He's got a couple things going against him. One, he's 37 years old. The other guy was 24, I think.
That's true, yeah.
Guy by the last name of Gall. Mike Gall?
Yeah.
Mickey Gall?
Okay. 2-0 fighters, really young, early in his career.
So he's very young, but he's been doing this kind of fighting for over a decade.
Yeah, a long time.
CM Punk's been wrestling for 20 years, sure, and he is one of the best in the world. No arguments there. But he was basically given, because of his stature, a 3-fight deal.
Right.
He didn't earn it. He was given. Oh, he earned it by other means, but he didn't earn it already in the octagon or in some other squared circle. So I think it's kind of interesting to see the people who came up from Greco-Roman or competitive wrestling, not professional wrestling, like Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, Brock Lesnar.
He was an NCAA champion.
Yeah.
You look at the guy, you can tell he's built for massacre.
He was great in UFC too.
And he came to UFC and had a good record, and he is intimidating as hell just to look at him. So he crossed over, but he had I don't want to say legitimacy, but he did have some actual fighting acumen and medal winning acumen before moving over there. He did have to work hard. I don't remember if he had some losses, but if he did, they weren't hugely substantial. He was able to parlay that and come back to the WWE. He became a marquee because of that. He was always a beast, but he became a marquee player by making that maneuver. And at first I thought that's what CM Punk was going to do. Almost follow in Brock Lesnar's footsteps and go, I'll go over here, get some more, cred.
Yeah.
And then maybe go back to another company that could really use me and appreciate me.
I don't think he could pull off the beast aspect, though.
I don't think he could pull off the beast, but to this day, people still call his name in a crap match.
Yeah.
Two jobbers are out on the mat, and you'll hear Punk or CM Punk or something like that.
So here's a question that I have that I've always wanted since Punk left acrimoniously. Just announced he's going to MMA, trained. Now he's had his first fight, which was a terrible loss. Is this all just a big shoot? Is this all planned? Do you think he's come back to the WWE and it's
here's why I think he could be.
Etc.?
I think he's waiting on Vince McMahon to die. Or maybe not to die, but I think he's waiting on Vince McMahon to officially step down.
Yeah.
I think he knows that Triple H is such a good businessman, and knows what people want and knows what the wrestlers can do, because he always rewards talent and ambition.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of people who wouldn't have their career and their stardom today if Triple H didn't say, that's the next guy. That happened to Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens has been touring around the world and probably would never have been given a shot by Vince McMahon. Not once. Yeah, he doesn't have the look. He doesn't have the style.
He's a dumpy guy. Yeah,
he's a dumpy guy.
Yeah,
but he's so fantastic. He gets the crowd to hate him, and then he does amazing things in the ring with his own style that did have to be tweaked a bit. But that was Triple H giving him the green light, and that's why he wears the title right now. So I think that this could be some long game plan. I think it's possible CM Punk is just totally done with the WWE because he doesn't respect the brand anymore, and he wants to be in that kind of business where he can fight, be athletic, and use strategy that he does have in his mind. He knows how to put on a good show.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, there's some showmanship in UFC for sure, but not in the same way as WWE or any professional wrestling. It doesn't feel right. He like you said, he's smart and he understands that business and he understands personality. It just doesn't seem right. He needs to be somewhere where he's going to show that off, because more than his wrestling skill, that's what I think was greatest about him. It's not going to work in the UFC, I don't think.
Well, in general, because he and I are such close friends, I wish him the best. Sure. I'd like to have him on the podcast at some point.
Maybe tomorrow.
He could talk about it a little bit.
We're playing golf tomorrow, so I'll mention it to him.
But I think it's entirely possible that one day he will be back on WWE television for something or another. There are people who we thought we'd never see again who came back.
Sure.
There are a few people that we want to see back, and just due to injuries we know can never come back and maybe should never come back. But he went out, I would say, at the top of his game, in-ring ability, storytelling ability, and I think that could only improve. That's improved with Brock Lesnar, the type of stories he's been telling.
Well, that's
over
the thing,
the last
though.
few
If he does
years.
come back, say he finishes his UFC deal and comes back, is he going to be the same athlete he was when he left? Is he going to be able to do the same thing?
He'll have ring rust. They always do, but that comes off pretty quickly with a couple months on the road.
He'll be close to 50 and have 3 UFC
He'll probably
fights
be
worth
about
of
40.
punishment.
He's got a 3
I'm
fight
sorry,
deal.
40. Yeah, I apologize. I was rounded up wrong.
It's okay, CM. We know you're young.
No, you're
you got
good,
some.
man.
You got some time left on the road. So we're recording this on a Sunday morning, and this is the last day of Minecon 2016. It's been a big weekend from all reports that I've seen so far. I'm pretty amazed at technology, the way that Mojang and other fans are already uploading as much information as they can. And this doesn't have the box office drive that a lot of big movie houses do, where they want you to see the trailer as soon as it hits. But information is coming out from Minecon. This is the biggest convention for a single game in the world.
Right, yeah.
Last year they had 10,000 people in attendance. Wow. This year they sold 12,000 tickets. Sold out in minutes.
Wow.
So they're going to be around the 12,000 mark as far as attendees.
Good-sized convention.
Huge. And they're streaming a lot of this stuff live. So if I were to go on YouTube or to their webpage, a lot of their panels they're streaming live, because this is something that I think is interesting and important to us, is in a community of conventions, they are so much about inclusion.
Yeah.
That they're willing to give a lot of it away for free. And they want the news to come out there. This is the time every year they announce something big.
Yeah. New patch or something.
New patch. We've already heard about 2 texture packs. Well, one is a skins pack for the Pocket Edition. It's medieval themed, and it's free for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And then they're going to have the texture pack, I think that's for consoles only, that is Chinese mythology, and it looks beautiful. And it always comes with a free map that you can do, like a battle map or something that inspires you how to build with these.
On there,
it turns the giant Ender Dragon into a Chinese dragon. It looks fantastic.
Very cool.
So I think this is a very important convention, and one that I would like to go to. However, since this game is so worldwide, last year it was in London.
I was about to ask, where is it?
It's in Anaheim.
Oh, okay. It's in the United States. Because wasn't it in Germany one year, I think? Or
I think so.
Somewhere in Europe.
But they do tour around to different countries throughout the world, so unless you are a YouTuber in the community and you can afford...
Get invited and airfare paid and all that
airfare and where to stay, and then you'll probably do a lot of streaming and stuff to go along with it. If it's in Europe, you probably can't get to go. But in Anaheim, and I was watching this, and it's just so cool. There are kids there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
At DragonCon, there were some children, but
Yeah.
Family friendly, but not family oriented. Would you say?
Yeah, I think that's a safe assessment. There's definitely some family oriented stuff there, but overall, yeah,
more for adults.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah, but yeah. Agreed.
Minecraft is so universal for ages that
it would have to be family
so many kids there, and
absolutely.
they're all getting to ask questions of the developers. Like,
That's cool.
do you think you're ever going to add this into the game? And some kind of silly questions, but they love it. I love it.
That's really cool. That's one aspect of Minecraft that I like a lot. Is that it is. I mean, it's kind of it can be annoying because there are so many kids in Minecraft, and so a lot of these content that you see online that's Minecraft oriented is annoying, and because loud noises and screaming people and PewDiePie and that kind of stuff. I can't stand it, but I love the fact that it is inclusive of kids. It reminds me of NES and Nintendo when we were like the Nintendo World Championship, and it's a company and a game saying to kids, we understand you, but we accept you for you. Like it's okay that you like our stuff, that you're kids.
It's for you as much as it is for anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas like gaming in general, since the late 90s, has become mature. It's Call of Duty and big cinematic, like Blizzard. Like I love Blizzard and their cinematics they do, but it's like everything is epic and huge and cinematics, and it's like. Whereas I'd love to see Minecraft where we're here to play with fun. Let's have fun and build and do fun, wacky stuff.
And I think I may have mentioned it in previous podcasts, and if not, we talked about it before. That how it's being used in education. It teaches gravity, and it teaches volume, and it teaches economy, and it teaches cooking skills.
Bacon comes from pigs.
Yeah, ham comes from pigs. Fish comes from fish. Chicken comes from chickens.
Sure.
Beef comes from cows. Leather comes from cows. Like all of that does, and this happened. My wife, who's a teacher, will, as a science teacher, talk about biomes, and they say, like in Minecraft. She says, yes, but in the real world. And she explains that you don't walk from one biome to another, as you do in Minecraft. They gradually change over hundreds of miles, but those concepts are just as important for children as they are for the adults who are learning the finer points of the game, who love the building and the creativity as well.
Geology and ore, the idea of ore, absolutely, smelting. Yeah.
So it's a big weekend, and we're going to get a lot more information coming out of it about the new releases, about some updated content. They're adding a few new animals. They recently added polar bears. They may add something like a llama. Yeah. They may add bears that are biome specific. So you see polar bears here and grizzly bears here. Yeah. It seems as if they're slowly incorporating the Mo Creatures mod, which I hope they do, because I used that mod at one point, and all the birds and the little critters.
Yeah, the little things flying around. It just makes it feel like a breeding world.
It does. Sometimes you want to feel like you're quiet and alone, but it's nice to come upon little pockets of life that are growing kind of in an organic way, and the more animals you have add to that, overall the better game, I think. So it's going to be interesting over the next few weeks, and in a future podcast, if there are any big updates, any huge releases. People are asking, is Minecraft 2 going to come out? And really it heals old wounds, and it grows so organically that they're probably never going to release a new version of the game. They're just going to continue to make this one more sophisticated and add content.
Well, that's the advantage of the graphical style that they use. It was quote unquote outdated when it came out. It's a timeless graphical style. You don't have to make we have to make a new game to use this new engine to get the. You don't have to do that. Yeah. It's always going to look the same, so all you have to do is patch the same game.
But they've created their own digital style in that means, where they got rid of some of the, like the grass has changed its look several times since its inception, but it now all the animals you add to it, all the other bottles or arrows, have this little kitschy character to it that does keep it where you don't need to update the graphics.
Yeah. You don't need new shaders or new hardware, shadow, whatever. You don't need all that stuff that means that here's the new Call of Duty and it's got HDR lighting on it. You don't need any of that. It's going to look the same.
For this episode's top 5, you and I went back and forth. We've got a couple really cool ideas for the next few episodes.
Yes.
This one, near and dear to our hearts, the top 5, I call it social video games. You were saying games to play with friends.
Yeah, top 5 games that you would want to have available if you were going to have buddies over to play.
Right.
Yeah, hang out. Just want to hang out and play video games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do not have them listed in top 5 order. I have different themes. So, for me, number 1 would be a shooter game, Perfect Dark. That is great on the Nintendo 64, and I think we've talked about it before, where you can create different AI bots to run around with you in the multiplayer fighter stages, where you could be on the same team and go up against
co-op
AI, co-op, or you
PvP.
can... I can give you 3 little buddies to run around with, and I have 3 buddies, and we're not only attacking each other, but them.
Yeah.
And the AI changes whether you want them to be defensive or aggressive. You can set difficulty level, and pretty fun character customization, too.
Well, I think my first one, actually kind of along the same veins, although not console, but PC, Quake 3.
Wow, yeah.
I'm thinking like LAN party style, like everybody bring their computer. I long ago, back in high school, I did some LAN parties with friends, and this is one of the primary games we played was Quake 3. Just a perfect multiplayer FPS. I still don't think it's been topped in terms of just raw, pure reaction, just everything that makes an online shooter great that has been set aside and forgotten about over the years. Great game.
That was the Unreal Engine, right?
I think it was like their second engine. After the
2, yeah.
I honestly, I don't remember. I have to look that up.
It was fantastic.
Beautiful game and a ton of fun. But same ideas as, competitive, but also collaborative in a way, having teams or having bots, things like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Here's a little addendum to that.
Yeah.
When I was on the USS Wasp, this was in 2000, there wasn't much connectivity off of the boat.
Yeah.
You could send emails, but they would be released in a blast at a random time throughout the day for security reasons. You didn't have Wi-Fi. You couldn't take a cell phone and call home. They did have a small LAN room where they had a couple of computers with a couple of games.
Nice.
And Quake 3 was one of those.
Nice.
And I was terrible at it. It's one of the first console games that I've ever played like that. So I didn't understand the mouse and keyboard combination. And some of these guys have been playing it for a few months, especially the Navy guys who have nothing else to do. So I got hammered pretty quickly. So I developed an affinity for that game, and it wasn't for a couple years after that when I finally got a little better at those kind of games and really saw what Quake 3 Arena was all about.
Yeah, I will say part of the reason for me choosing that is I was pretty good at that game. So I usually beat all my friends, and that's part of it. I like winning.
My next one's still in the fighter vein. Now we're talking one-on-one fighter.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat Gold Edition.
Nice.
Now, I cut my teeth more on Mortal Kombat 2 and 3. My favorite character this day is still Sub-Zero. I like being able to throw ice down on the ground and trip you up and uppercut you and just keep juggling a couple combos. But what I liked about Mortal Kombat Gold is it had everybody. It added all the characters, even the ones that didn't exist.
Yeah.
They added them into the game. The
Noob Saibot?
Noob Saibot and Rain and Ermac and Jade and everybody's in there. The game engine isn't quite the strongest as you would find, say, on the Super Nintendo. I think that was the most fun to play.
Yeah.
But I like having all the characters, so if I keep kicking your butt with smoke over and over and over again, you can find someone who's going to take me out.
Yeah.
And it may take you 5-8 games, but you can constantly refresh. Nobody is going to be the champion for too long because someone's going to find a combination that'll stop you.
Yeah, I like Mortal Kombat as a choice there because it is, and this is a compliment, shallow as a fighting game.
Right.
There is enough depth, but there's not so much to where I play this game all the time, and I'm going to beat all of you because I know I know the frame count. Competitive fighting games are just so many levels beyond my comprehension. Mortal Kombat's super simple, straightforward. Anybody can pick it up and button mash and have fun.
And that's essentially why I didn't pick. My second choice here would have been like Super Smash Brothers, one of those incarnations.
I also crossed that one off my list, same reason, yeah.
But that becomes too much of a pixel count, and you know that, well, if I do this with Luigi, I can negate anything you ever do.
You start talking about tiers of characters, like, oh, he's top tier, you can't use him.
Yes.
There's no tiers in Mortal Kombat, it's just Mortal Kombat.
The only tiers are when I defeat you,
yes,
and I freeze you, and knock your head off.
Frozen tears falling to the ground and splashing in blood.
Fatality. Friendship.
My next choice, I hope I'm not jumping ahead of you on this one. I'm going to go back to a previous topic, Minecraft.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I'll go ahead and say that is my...
Is that on your list?
That's on my list.
Yeah. Minecraft, great collaborative game. It's a game that's really enjoyable by yourself because it's very chill and relaxed and you can just zone out and have fun, but it's also a game that's a lot of fun to play with other people, to collaborate, to build.
It's whatever you want to make it, really. Because if you want it to be adventure, and this is the thing that you and I didn't get to do too much before, I like the idea of you and a couple people playing together and exploring together.
Yeah.
Let's go find a mine shaft and all go down together. Yeah. And you start to worry a little bit about resources. Hey, I've got some torches. Okay, give me a few.
Let me get some torches. Yeah.
I'm getting hurt. Throw me some food.
I need some pork chops, yeah.
Get back here. I'm the only one with the diamond sword with any enchantments on it. And you kind of work in as a team. So it's got exploration. Mm-hmm. You can do PvP. The combat isn't the most sophisticated, but it can be a lot of fun. And there are so many different maps that you can download and other mini games on other servers that really add the variety you're looking for. Yep. But the creativity building, just relaxing if you want to.
Absolutely.
I love playing that game with my niece and nephew. They're young, they're kids.
With young siblings as well, and and you can connect with anybody in that game.
That's probably my all-time favorite group game. Now, it's difficult to play in the same room, but I still imagine you gather together online to play as a group.
Yeah, you could make the excuse of a LAN party, or you could do the console version where you can set all the same controller as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, sorry about stealing your choice of Minecraft there, but we definitely agree there.
Well, we've played it together, so it makes sense that it's something we both appreciate.
Well, I'll jump down to the next one on my list then. Similar vein in terms of how you would interact with people, but World of Warcraft.
All right, you just stole another one of mine.
I stole another one.
This one is in my MMO category, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like this is maybe partially cheating on our topic, and maybe we should have limited it to, local multiplayer.
Maybe so.
But this is a game that we've played with our friends, and I've played with other friends. WoW it's WoW. It's about all I can say.
Now, I do think that this is a game that I appreciate in other ways that maybe most of your generic gamers don't. I love riding through that little piece of the map, and I know that a content creator spent a lot of time putting that tree there that it faces a certain direction to give a certain ambiance. And so I would enjoy just getting into first-person mode, riding through an area, just looking around and taking it all in, because artistically, this was created for just a certain look and feel.
Yeah, when it came out, it was unbelievably good, looking in terms of just, like you said, design and exploration, and
what I'll do is I'll go into one of the cities, with Stormwind, go into a little shop, and then there's a book laying on the table. Yeah. Now, that exact sprite, that book and that table may be the same in 5-10 other shops. But why it was placed here, why it's facing the way it is, it gives a feel that this building has been lived in, that stuff is happening here. Yeah. I always think that's really cool. And then I've seen people make up their own games. One time we had, I think it was the Naked Dwarf run, and everybody would just be at level 1s and would race through an area. And they know that they're going to be agging creatures, and they're all going to die and respawn, and somebody would be at the finish line. No cheating. Whoever got to the end would win some sort of a prize, some sort of a giveaway, maybe some gold. And I've seen that happen a couple times. They did it like 3 times in this one guild, like once a month, the monthly Naked Dwarf run. And it was hilarious because you would see 30 or 40 people in this guild all meeting together, running through a town, all naked dwarves. Men and women, different colors, different hair. Like, what is going on here? This is crazy. I think it's what you make of it, but there is so much love and lore in that story. Yeah,
it's a game not like Minecraft in that, you're enjoying other people's content, you're not creating your own content, but like Minecraft, there is something for everyone in that game. And it's almost like Facebook or MySpace. It's a place, chat rooms.
It is a chat room.
It's a place to hang out with people as much as it is a game.
You really can. So, you can make machinima there.
Yeah.
You can.
South Park did it.
Yeah, they did. That's probably the only South Park episode of this day that I could rewatch because it's Warcraft, and I love the artwork put into the characters, and I do like occasionally being a badass, being my paladin. I haven't touched that paladin since like level 40 or 50 was the top.
Yeah,
but he's still sitting there, super powerful for his time and his age. And when I would run through with a group and just rocking face, it felt pretty good.
Yeah. Well, so I apologize. I've now stolen 2 of yours in a row. Why don't you give me another one?
All right, so this would be the last one I would have, and it is my platformer, Super Mario Brothers Wii.
Oh, okay. This is new Super Mario Brothers.
Well, yeah, it's in those series of games.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, this is the new Super Mario Brothers Wii.
Right.
My wife and I stumbled upon this one. 4 players.
Yeah, you can all play at the same
scroller.
Time. Yeah.
And what's great is if you can't make it, you can pop into a bubble and just float around and get closer to your colleagues to safety. Well, if you're trying to run fast or do a special jump, you might accidentally pick up one of your co-players and hold them over your head.
Yeah, I remember you could pick
and then
them
you
up
accidentally throw them.
Oh, I remember that, yes.
So it is as fun as it is infuriating. And depending on who you're playing with, we have one buddy named Cameron who is the greatest, but he's so fun, and he got us killed more than anything else. Just a blast. I don't think I've yelled and laughed as much playing a game as I did that one. And it's Super Mario Brothers, so you have a lot of levels that are interestingly built with fun game mechanics of bouncing or flying or just having to float down at the right place at the right time, avoiding thwomps, avoiding new challenges, and I think we died most by falling into lava. Lava was just the bane of our existence. This new Super Mario Brothers Wii, probably the best platformer that I've played in a long time.
Just thinking about that reminds me, I'm going to throw out a quick honorable mention because this wasn't on my list and I'm not going to add it late, but the Lego games, Lego Star Wars, Lego, similar
for
vein.
A group game, two-player.
Two-player, having fun. Similar kind of feel of like, oh, I'll help you along kind of thing.
I would say I would probably give the nod to the Star Wars Legos games.
Yeah, they were
because
the best. Yeah.
The difference in your character classes, you could have one person being the shooter type, like a Jango Fett or a Boba Fett, and the other be the Jedi. And you can do anything and everything.
Well, so my next actual game on the list is, again, 2-player. This is my 2-player choice. Just because it's near and dear to my heart. I spent a lot of time playing it 2-player when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I loved the game. I loved the mechanics. I loved the style. Toe Jam and Earl. The original Toe Jam and Earl in Genesis.
I got very limited exposure to that. It was cool.
We need to play through it then.
Yeah.
For a 2-player game, if I were going to sit down with one other person and play a game, that's probably it. Because it is so much fun and gets really difficult later on and is so infuriating and it creates those moments where you're just so angry at your playing partner, and then when you pull it through, it feels so good. Fun game. Plus, like I said, I love the style, I love the music, I love the art. That game, it's very near and dear to my heart. Big fan. And they're remaking it, actually. I was just seeing that. I think they did a Kickstarter. I think
yeah.
it's going to be on PC. It's like a reimagining of the original game, so it's the same layout and 2D, new art style and new music and stuff, new technology, but like the same style of gameplay, which looks awesome.
I think I read somewhere they were trying to do the same thing with Earthworm Jim, but I didn't hear that it got off the ground. Maybe it's in development, but Toe Jam and Earl, that would be a cool license to bring into the new millennium.
We'll see. I don't know. They've tried a couple times. I know there was one on Xbox that was garbage and nobody liked it. But anyway, like I said, near and dear to my heart, personally.
How about we come up with 2 games that are terrible games to play with a co-player?
Oh, okay.
And something that's just too infuriating, or...
Actually, you know what? The game that I would say that is most infuriating to play with other people is also my number 1 best game to play with other people.
Yeah.
Mario Kart.
Mario Kart.
Any of them. I prefer Mario Kart 64. I played the new 8 or whatever the new one is great. They're all excellent. But great game to play with other people, and it will make you absolutely hate people too. The blue shell. Ugh.
The blue shell, the dadgum blue shell. Now, however, at the same time, when you're playing against a computer, the blue shell might be the only way you can win against some of those cheating
Fair
players.
enough. Yeah.
But yeah, I've had a lot of fun with the Mario Kart, especially the newer ones. Rainbow Road gets me every time.
Sure,
every incarnation
that's
of
just
Rainbow
a
Road.
fun end of the day.
But yeah, the newer Mario Karts have been a lot of fun, and I like that the graphical increase, because it's become more sophisticated. That's still not the draw. It's still a basic kart racer at its
just
heart.
the gameplay,
And you can turn off the power-ups if you want to and make it a straight skill-on-skill race.
Right.
But you still
no
can
fun.
occasionally find a bit of a shortcut. That's cool. And it will make you want to throw your significant other through
Absolutely.
the plate glass window.
What about you? Any games you do not want to play with other people?
Well, I can't play... I think it's Double Dragon. That's one of the ones where I think you can injure each other.
Yes.
And you both try to run up to a Bobobo and try to punch him, and then you're punching, like, get off of me!
Well,
Get on the
spoiler
other
alert, at the
side.
end of the game, you have to fight each other.
Yeah.
To see who wins, yeah.
I win every time. Until my partner punches me in the back of the head and we're fighting somebody else.
Kicks you off the cliff.
I think Battletoads is another one of those where you can turn it off where you don't hit each other, but otherwise you do.
That's what I've heard from so many like retro game players and speedrunners. Battletoads is almost impossible to beat 2-player because of that reason. It's much easier single player, which is unusual. Most games are easier 2 people. You got more people to fight, but yeah.
And I don't even know that if it's much easier single player, because I will never forgive that one level with the
turbo tunnel.
turbo tunnel.
Yeah, there's like
Jeez.
3 more levels like that.
That is the worst thing ever.
Game is brutal.
It's broken in that regard. Like, the rest of it has such a cute little design.
Oh yeah,
The characters
it's
are
a great game. It's
lovable,
just brutal.
and total rip on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Sure. Yeah.
But that level is just game breaking. Like, breaks my internal game of my heart.
Yeah.
Couldn't play that with other people. And also, there's a game that is my wife's favorite. That's Dokapon Kingdom.
Okay, don't know. I'm not familiar with
It
this.
comes across as a gentle RPG with very basic paper, rock, scissors style combat.
Okay.
But you can totally pillage the other players. And you can steal their rewards. And you can get to a point where you're so impossibly high above them that they can never catch up.
Yeah.
It frustrates me, maybe because I'm a little more experienced in RPGs. My wife is a goddess at this game. Kicks my butt every time. Her and her other friends in college used to play this on repeat. It is cute. It does have little cutscenes that happen from time to time. You can go and buy new equipment, but you basically go to these towns and liberate them from evil spirits and monsters.
Okay.
Then it becomes your town, and they send you money every month. And once you have like 15 towns, someone else only has 1 or 2, there's just no way to
Game
catch up.
over.
Basically game over. There are ways to make it so now you become super powered and they all are gonna rue the day they ever met you. But that lasts so briefly, and you never catch up. this episode's table topics.
Table topics!
I want to talk a little bit about adding realism into the game.
Okay.
Because this is such an important thing that I deal with. That is there such a thing as going overboard? And I think there is, depending on your game. But I think it's important that you do put something in that adds some realism because it pulls you down into it. If every time you play, and if all you have, as I said before, is just a piece of paper and some pennies and you use that as like your characters and your monsters, that's fine. Let the theater of the imagination rule. But if you have a figurine that looks kind of like the bad guy, and if you have an environment that looks a little bit like where you are, I think that just sucks you into the game even more.
Yes, I would agree.
You were there when I was just playing around with dry ice. I wanted to see what that would add to the playing field, so I threw some dry ice in a big bowl of water and let that just come down onto the playing field. It was kind of cool to see.
A little too foggy.
A little too foggy.
But I like the effect.
And it's moisture, so anything that was dry paper was slowly absorbing the moisture. But that was a cool effect, and it was cool to see, and it inspired me for some other ideas in the future. I had some ideas for built that I like to play with. The idea of having a little area that has hoses hooked up to it that you could throw dry ice into a little container and then get a smaller fog effect in certain areas. But I think you need to add something kind of realistic, whether that's you buy it or you make it or you just adjust how it looks to set the mood. Environment is everything. It doesn't have to be that you turn down the lights and you have the thunderstorm on some sort of music playing in the background. But what do you think about when you come to a table and you see very sparse, very plain, as opposed to a more realistic version of the setting?
Yeah, like you said, I think it does depend on the game. And if I sit down and all there is a grid map that's drawn on with markers and, like you said, coins or something, little markers, it makes me, I guess, even subconsciously feel board game. And therefore, if I'm sitting at that table, I'm going to feel more like we're playing a board game. I'm going to probably be more rules-centric.
More tactic rule,
more like, oh, how many squares can I move? What's the range? What skill can I use? That kind of thing. When I sit down and your party finds yourself in a tavern, okay, that was whatever, but you sit down a little tavern set, and I have minis in the tavern that look like my characters.
Yeah.
That goes a long, long way to helping me get into, like I said, get into the mood of the game, but like RP, like, because it takes the challenge away from your mind of imagining, and not only does it allow you to more easily imagine what you're looking at, but it puts everybody on the same page. One thing I like about, like say you have a really nice tavern set, and say you as a GM built this tavern model, you have our minis in it, and you just set some little cups on the bar, a little mini of some cups. That's just flavor for you, but now all of a sudden I see those cups and another player sees those cups, and my character walks over and casually picks up one of the glasses and looking at it, and one of the other characters comes over and picks up the tray. So when you introduce those things, it's almost like with actors, you can almost look at players in an RPG as like your actors, and you're the director. You're looking at, it's the difference between setting down actors around a table and reading through a script versus putting them on a stage with set dressing and costume.
The word I think of is props.
Yeah.
Anytime in the past that I was acting, when I finally have a prop in my hand that I'm going to be using, it helps adjust the character. Yeah. How would I hold this? Why am I... Okay, there are cups on the table. Are we drinking? Yeah. Are they empty? Right. Are we getting drunk? Are we toasting to an adventure? Are we drinking in commiseration for a fallen comrade? I liked having some of those available to inform a character's decision, but I've also seen instances where I provide a very lavish-looking environment, and then one week it was all erase matte because it was a more complicated setup, and there was no way to make
manufacture it all.
I would have needed to make 30 or 40 different small tents, and each one would have something that it was selling, or food, or a game. There's no way. So when we went back to that, I could tell the players felt a little more removed from what was actually happening. So I think there's something to be said for not always going overboard and letting people know that this is a big special event. That's why you have such a lavish environment. But maybe save some of your punches if you have to. That not every game needs to be overly done. Not every game needs to have musical accompaniment and light setting and food that you're serving that pairs with the game. Like, oh, we're all drinking a port, and then I'm pouring port for everybody.
Yeah, I think there is a certain danger to that, where if you feel like every single thing you do in your game has to have that sort of accompaniment. Say you build a nice tavern set, and you have the party start in the tavern, and for you as the GM, the tavern is unimportant, and you're trying to get the party moving and out the door.
This always happens.
You built this beautiful set, and now the players are like, oh, well, this is an important place that we need to stay at, because, you know, it's the same thing like if you have a mini for a character, for a bad guy character. Yeah, you have this mini because it's great to have the ogre look just right, but because you have a custom mini, everybody's like, oh, this is the big bad guy. This is just some random encounter, but, you know, so, yeah, there's consistency involved with this where, you know, if you do special things for certain encounters, it's going to make that encounter have more emphasis. So, like you said, you should sometimes have to pull your punches a little bit, so that you don't emphasize things too much. But at the same time, I think there's also, you go a long way when you commit to some really cool terrain or minis or props. If nothing else, it's making the players feel like you care and that you're welcome in their game and that you're interested in what's going on too. That's an important aspect.
There's partly selfless and selfish. I want it to look good so that my players go, wow, where are we? What are we in? Let's get into the moment. Yeah. Let's focus. Yeah. Because if it's just a dry erase mat, it's okay. I can turn around and those same exact squares will be there. The same polygons will be there. But
so you're just playing a board game at that point.
You're playing a board game. Yeah. And a lot of this is, we could strip the whole table, have nothing up there, and just talk and be a theater of the mind. Yeah. And sometimes I think that is just as strong as a detailed environment.
Yeah, there's room for that. Sometimes. So absolutely.
I think if you're the way to keep it from being feast or famine is the way you describe what's happening.
Yeah.
If all you have is the tabletop setting and you say it's raining outside, as opposed to the tavern setting, you could say the patrons are coming in, throwing off their cloaks into the corner. They're drenched and they're warming themselves by the fire, and they're drinking stout ales and heavy wine, fortified wines, to try to fight the cold from the torrential downpour.
Yeah.
Better description. Now you feel as if you know what's going on in that room.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think you should always be cognizant of situations you put players in, and if you have to draw everything out on a marker board, that's the time when you should pull out your phone and start playing some music. When you should make a little bit more effort to describe the scene, when you should bring the lights down and make sure everybody's focused, light a candle. Those are the times when you don't have the terrain to get everybody in. You need to find those other ways to pull everybody in, within reason. Well, I think that's going to bring us down to the end of this episode of the FoundryCast. I hope you guys have enjoyed kind of varied topics tonight. We've been kind of all over the place. It's a nice change of pace. It's not really back to normal. Compared to the last couple episodes have been really focusing on DragonCon before and after. So it's kind of nice to get back to the old format.
And as we approach any other conventions or any other big things coming up, we'll probably switch a little back and forth.
Sure.
But I like the idea of just talking about whatever's ever present on our mind, and it was good for us to get some of this negativity, positivity stuff out there, be able to voice it and bat it around a little bit.
Yeah, we'll definitely try our hardest going forward. We're gonna, we're not gonna preach to anybody. We're not gonna push anything down anybody's throats. But I think we both would agree we're going to try our best to, as we move forward, all of our projects, we're going to try and be as positive as possible, as constructive as possible, rather than destructive.
I mean, when you're building, you ought to be constructive. It's what
helps.
I like to say.
It helps.
And we've got a lot of projects on the horizon. We're going to do a little more planning on those today after the show.
Yep.
But if you want to learn more and see more, please follow us on the website, anywhere you can find us. I am the Crafty Bastard Gamer. You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, and on YouTube.
And I'm 9to5 Gamer, also Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all that good stuff. I'm all over the place.
And our website is the FoundryCast.
The FoundryCast.wixsite.com/home.
And as always, I am more than meets the eye.
And I am a tightly wound spring.
And we'll see you next time on the FoundryCast.
Good night, guys. You know what we should do instead is just go watch Star Wars.
What's Star Wars?
It's a Western.
Oh, okay.
It's starring Tommy Lee Jones as the President of the United States.
I love that guy.
I know, he should be president.